Continue, Jake. The tribe has spoken.
Fuck you, Kevin.
Aw, fuck you too, sweetie.
I'm JJ, one of the original Tribe of Nerds members. You can catch me on Marvel, Pokemon, and other gaming podcasts.
What up? It's Josh, resident superhero nerd, but I also dabble in the occasional super villain as well.
Some may know me as the Chaos Gremlin, but really I'm just Joe King.
Pikachu, use Volt Tackle! Good job, Pikachu!
On the Tribe of Nerds. Hey everybody, welcome to the Tribe of Nerds. Shane, Kristin, and I are back for episode 4 of Deal or No Deal Island Season 2, and what an exciting one for all of us Vanquish people, because we get to talk about the big move made by Dickson, and how do you guys feel about this episode?
I was blown away. Knowing Dickson, I knew he would be a big character on the season. He's playing exactly who Dickson is. You also wonder sometimes who these people are in real life. Shane and I personally know Dickson. I've personally played with him on an online game, so I can't imagine him on an actual game, but he is playing exactly how Dickson would play. And to see him be able to come out on top last night, I was sitting there, I even said when we were watching it, my heart was pounding. I knew it was going to be something good because of the preview. But my heart was pounding with him every case he opened. And it was a fantastic episode. I think probably the best that we've seen of Deal or No Deal Island to date here.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I think this will definitely go down as both a very memorable episode, but also a very memorable move when we, however long from now, talk about the history of Deal or No Deal Island. It's only season 2, so it's weird to be we haven't seen anything like this, but honestly, we haven't, and I don't think we will, unless this shifts the game, because I feel like that move was something you would see in Survivor. Our Big Brother, where literally you're playing to do that stuff because the jury wants to see it, and if you don't do it, you don't win. Or here, as David kind of outlined, the strategy to win is a little different because there's a challenge at the end.
Right.
Unless that's different, we don't know, because Joe did say at the beginning, toss what you know out the window.
Right. And I mean, with Deal or No Deal Island too, it's kind of it is seeming just a black and white, if you will, type of game. And so maybe they don't want players to just be okay, every time Deal or No Deal happens, I want to sign up for that because I know I can compete at the end and win that money. So maybe they are going to switch something up. We don't know. So it's going to be exciting to see. But I know we're going to get into it. Obviously, the temple is probably the biggest part of our podcast today. But Jake, what were your thoughts watching this last night?
Yeah, I mean, I said that after the fact that it was the best episode of Deal or No Deal Island as well. I don't think anything really compares to it. I called that maybe that was the move that was going to get made before Dickson opened the last case. And I'm like, what if he does this? Because we've been getting teased that this couple is pairing up. And how crazy would it be for this power couple or couple that's trying to...
Showman. Yeah.
Yeah, they're showmans. Yeah. That how crazy would it be if he just splits them up immediately, and he did it? Then it was just so crazy to watch, and I loved it. So
yeah, I will say as good of an episode as it was also confusing in many ways, in terms of the editing, because I feel they started out with confessionals and stuff that didn't make any sense based on what we've seen. Right. Where, Dickson had an early moment where he's talking to Dave and he's people are throwing my name out. And I'm no one has ever thrown his name out from what we've seen. And Seychelles is like, oh yeah, I don't respect him. I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And even like the showmance, they hyped this up as like a big thing in the trailers and everything, and it's a 30-second showmance.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think all of us said that last night. There was a lot happening that we were like, did they like forget an episode? Did they like mix up weeks? What's happening here? Because there was a lot of information that was thrown out that didn't seem to fit what we had seen from the previous week. So, I don't know if that was like an oversight there of maybe an editing team, or if they mixed up an episode, or they decided like, oh, we forgot about that part. Now everybody's watching is like screwed. Like, I don't know what happened there, but
yeah, because I was already confused because I think we've mentioned this. I studied the preview and I thought the Dickson and the Temple moment was going to be next week because I only saw 11 or 10 people there.
Right.
Dr. Will was not there.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Will wins this challenge and it looks like Dixon's going in. I'm like, what is happening?
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's rally back here, because I know that's going to be our huge moment that we're talking about, because there was a lot right there at the end. I feel like the majority of that episode was the end, but some things that we need to point out there, that they did get sent in. They obviously did talk, like Shane was talking about, how like, you know, Dixon's like, I've heard my name. We got some like kind of little bits. We get the baby showmance for about like 2 seconds on the screen.
Yeah.
And then they go to the challenge, and they are asked to rank themselves of who is the biggest threat, who is the least threat. Of course, Will being the cocky person that he is, they also are presented with whoever wants to be the first to, you know, volunteer, and he raises his hand immediately. And Joe's like, you didn't even know what I was going to ask, but you get to tell us your ranking, who you thought was the biggest threat out loud. Listen, I don't give Will much credit sometimes, but he said a very funny line. I thought he was going to ask who's going in for Magic Mike 4. Hilarious. Because we all know that Joe like made Magic Mike. Sorry, Channing Tatum. But like, Joe is the star in that show. Jake, Shane, I'm assuming you guys haven't seen it, but take my word for it. With that being said, he did put out that he said that he was the biggest threat. He had put himself number one. Again, the cockiness coming out. A lot of people are eye rolling. CK has obviously made a big thing against her. We saw her talking to Parvati about like, girl, can you maybe tone it down a little bit? We all get it. And so we do see that, but then their actual challenge isn't that. They go to the beach where they have axe throwing, and you're supposed to aim the target at who you think is the biggest threat for the biggest cases, who are the two least people that are threats for the lowest cases. They, of course, will be safe, and the ones in between will not be safe. Person, obviously, with the highest case will be able to pick who's going in, which, of course, like Shane mentioned, was Will. What did you guys think of this excursion here? It wasn't like very... you know, as physical as we've seen some other ones. What were your guys' thoughts in going into what they kind of did here?
I thought it was a little confusing, actually, because the case numbers didn't even matter. Like, they just threw that in there. It would have been a little better if they kind of made it a little, like, touchy subjects-ish, where this wasn't much. And even like ranking them on threat level, like as a concept, I like that idea, but also in a game like this, what is a threat?
Right.
Like Dr. Will, Parvati, and David were the top three, and that's just like reputation wise. But in this game, are they actually threats to win? Like,
right.
I don't know. I don't think Will would be. I mean, Parvati and David, sure, because the challenge at the end.
Yeah. I think the thing with Will is like them thinking him, because I'm with you, Shane. I don't view him as a threat because he is this cocky, like out there. This is a game where you can vote somebody. It's like a Survivor / Big Brother in that way. You're gonna vote them into Temple. Granted, they can stay in the game. This is kind of like, I mean, if anybody's watching Vanquish Firestarters, it's kind of like a Firestarter moment where Temple is Firestarter. You can still stay in the game. So it's. I'm with you. I don't really understand like the ranking the threat level, because maybe define threat a little bit more. But yeah, I kind of felt that this was like, it really didn't matter. I mean, I guess if you really wanted to try and take the top case from somebody, but then if not, then you didn't end up with the case. But then if you're in the bottom, like, wouldn't that mean there was a lot of confusion here with this excursion?
Yeah. And I expected more like drama to it. You'd think multiple people would go for like the same cases, and that didn't really happen. And even when it did the one time with Philip, like he got another shot, so everybody ended up getting a case. So I'm like,
Right.
oh. And even going back to the threat level thing, like I feel like knowing what we know about these types of games, the traditional threat is the Parvati, the David, the Will, those people. But in this game,
Right.
I truly think, at least from what we saw last season, the biggest threat is the Storm, the maybe not now, but the Dixon, the Maria Grace, like the people in the middle that are just kind of like
Right.
floating by, not making commotion. People like them, want to keep them around, and then they have a decent shot of winning the challenge at the end. Like if you're like
Right.
Will, there's a lot of people that don't like him. They're going to get him out.
Oh,
Right.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jake, what are your thoughts on this excursion?
Yeah, I definitely found it a little confusing, also very short, like compared to the other excursions. Like there was definitely more meat to like the past few weeks, and then this one was just like, okay, throw an axe at a target. Like there wasn't much to this challenge, and then it's over and we're back at camp, and you know, all of a sudden, we're basically getting like people targeting the family because all of a sudden, like, people know this alliance is a thing, like, kind of out of nowhere. We didn't really get any build up to
And
it.
speaking of that, since when is Maria Grace part of the family?
Right. When she's
They
like,
didn't-
Mom and Dad, we have to talk to you. I was like, what?
I-
Where did this come from?
Yeah, as you guys said earlier, I do feel like they took scenes maybe from next week and put them in here to maybe like build up to like Dixon's move, but also it just didn't make sense. So
Yeah.
I believe US Survivor at least, maybe Australian Survivor as well, like they'll take scenes from another episode and kind of put them in a different episode. Sometimes I've noticed that, and like it, and they want things to make sense, but then it ends up just being more confusing.
For sure. Yeah, we've brought up, I think this excursion was kind of almost pointless a little bit, but we do see that there was a $5 million case. This is the highest amount, which of course Will got, so he gets the power to pick who he's going to go in. Of course, Will's like, I'm not telling anybody, blah, blah, blah. We do see him in their, like, quote unquote, their rooms, talking with Storm, and I forget who else was there. Somebody can fill me in.
Philip, I think. Seychelles, I think.
Seychelles, that's who I was thinking of. And Storm brings up a point of like, you want CK out, but like CK could turn around and take somebody that you want to work with out of here. So what if you put in like a Dixon and maybe kind of be like, I want CK out, and like put it in there, which we do see later that Storm is talking to Dixon kind of, well, who would you take out? And he's like, CK, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I would take out CK. Also, this is, Shane, I know you probably were feeling this, but for other casual viewers, don't give any little piece of anything to Dixon, because he's then going to use it to play you like a fiddle, which is exactly what he did to Will, one of the greatest players to play. And that's exactly what happened. Him and Dixon, we see a very short moment, and he goes, Dixon, would you pull in? Well, just Storm gave him enough ammo to know how to play Will right here. Because that is the point, like Dixon said, and how everybody's kind of said, is I want to take everything into my hands. If I'm leaving this island, I want it to be by me. And so Dixon's like, I think I would take out CK. Yeah, I would take out CK. And Will's like, oh, that's all I need to hear. All right. So we get to Temple, and Will comes up there as his cocky self and puts Dixon in. And man, oh man, buckle up everyone, because we're about to get into a massive, like, huge moment here, because this Temple was like chef's kiss.
Yeah, here comes the Big Dickson energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Shane or Jake, or who do you guys want to, or who wants to kick off? I can't talk today. Who wants to kick off? How Temple
I'll
started?
start this. So, obviously he picks a case at first, number 4. And I didn't realize this. I don't know if he like studied it coming in, or he just knows all this, but he knew like all the case models from the original
I
Deal or
do.
No Deal.
Yeah,
I knew
you did
this.
know.
I was right there with him. I was like, yes.
And he's like picking cases based on them, or like the hot ones, so to speak. I guess a couple were or the case he picked was for his favorite baseball player, which I've
Yes.
never heard that name before, but I don't follow baseball. Or I also don't follow St. Louis Cardinals. The only thing I know about them is they lost at least twice to the Red Sox in the World Series. So I know
That's a
that.
jab.
But
That's a jab.
but yeah, so at first, like, he's knocking off a lot of the low numbers. And everyone's like, oh, that's amazing. You're doing so great. I'm like, actually, you're not, because he had like 5 cases above his first offer of 400 something thousand and 3 cases below. I'm like, the odds aren't in your favor. So don't take that deal. But he continues knocking off a lot of the low cases and the odds get even worse. But his offer is like 1 point something million. I'm like, yeah, still don't take that. And it's just, I don't know. I say this all the time, but it's like, why are they hyping up traditional Deal or No Deal where that's a good thing when here that's not the purpose?
Right.
So yeah, he's having good luck, and then we get down to a point where there's $1, 2.5 million, and 5 million, and he has to knock off one more case, and it's the dollar. So like he has the 2 highest cases on the board, which that's amazing. And at this point now it's 50-50 odds. So your odds are decent. Like I would say if you have 50-50 or higher, go for it. And the interesting thing is at that point, he gets the offer of 3.2 million, which it's in the middle of the two, but it's closer to the lower end. And regardless of whether you take that offer or you go wait it out to the end, like your odds are the same. So I'm like, at that point, you either take the 3.2 and you have a 50-50 shot of going home, or you still have a 50-50 shot of going home, but now you also have a 50-50 shot of 5 million.
Yeah.
And if worst case scenario, you go down 700,000 from the original offer to 2.5 million. So it's still pretty good.
Right.
So he takes it to the end, and sure enough, his case said 5 million, which at that point, I'm like, I wasn't shocked because we've seen the trailer.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's I mean, obviously from the preview we knew it was going to be something big. We knew that he would most likely stay from that because he was cheering. I don't think he would be cheering and jumping up and down if he was going home. So we did know that he was most likely going to stay at that point. The fact that he got the 5 million and was the biggest amount of money. We now know that whoever wins the season of Deal or No Deal Island is going to win the highest amount ever in any reality show. And even whether it's Dixon or not, Dickson is the reason why this person, if it's him or not, is going to go home with this massive. I'd be like, guys, I need a royalty or something for that. Yeah, it was, for me, it was so funny because even when we were watching, he's like, his first pick was like, my favorite girl was number 10, Anna, and I was like, but she always had a big number in her case, and sure, it was a big number. Yeah. And then he's like, and then Claudia, and I was like, she always had a low number, and sure. So, but I was right there with Dixon. I was like, I remember all these cases, which was just kind of fun, nostalgic a little bit for me to watch as a former fan of the actual Deal or No Deal, because I too was that obsessed with the show back then that I knew all of models' names. I knew like pretty confidently like where the bigger numbers were. They did switch around, but they stayed in kind of those same familiar cases. But yeah, it was just, I mean, honestly, with you, Shane, that's where my heart was pounding in these moments, because it's like, we know that something amazing is going to happen, but like, how are we going to get there? And so I just sat there in anticipation, excitement. It was just so good.
Yeah. And another thing too about that final offer he got of the 3.2 million, I don't know, like, this is just a coincidence or what, but I know last season this happened to Claudia and she brought it up, where I think she had an offer that was like higher than it should have been. So I think there were like 2 cases and the offer was closer to the higher case. And she's like, that deal's too good. That means my case has the high number. She took the deal and she was correct the first time, but it ended up meaning she went home. If that's the case, this time the offer was closer to the lower case. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And he did have the high case in his thing. So it's like, if the offer's on the lower side, like there's the incentive to not take it. Or if it's on the higher side, there's the incentive to take it. So like, are they trying to manipulate psychology a little bit there? Or is it just like coincidence? I don't know.
It could be, but also, I mean, and granted, who knows, like like if they're actually
Yeah.
talking to the band, you know what I mean? We don't actually know the whole like backstory of
Right.
that. But like, I mean, Joe did mention like, oh my God, she's like kind of mad right now. He's like, I enjoy seeing her mad, you know? And so
Yeah.
it could be at one of those moments that if they are actually talking and she's back there crunching numbers or has somebody else in the backside crunching numbers to be kind of make that play on his, you know, thinking ability at
Right.
that point. Because obviously he is a fan. He's calling out the briefcases and who their models were. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
maybe it was a moment for them to
Yeah.
be like, let's
Because to,
flip the
to
frame.
go into like the meta a little bit here, like I know there's a formula. I don't know what it is, but there's a formula, and they can probably play with it a little bit on either end of it. But season one, when it happened, like it seemed like if Claudia won that, you know, their favorite might have been in trouble, Boss Raw.
Yeah.
And they didn't want that to happen.
Right.
Here, it does seem like Dickson is a favorite amongst Joe and production and whatnot.
Yeah.
So are they? Because I think if this, I'm not saying it's true or not, but like if they are using the offers to like manipulate psychology, that's an interesting strategy because I don't think it would be cheating or anything. Like it's just
Right, because
playing
you
with
don't
the
know how
player
that person's
psychology.
going to think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You don't know where their brain's going to be at in that moment. Jake,
But
what
it's
were
something I would definitely watch because, like, if you want to play this game in the future, see how many times that happens and use
happens?
it to your
Yeah, for sure.
advantage.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Shane. I think, and even just maybe the rest of the season to kind of see what they do with that too, just
Yeah.
to, you know what I mean?
Right.
Jake, what were your thoughts going into Dixon? Obviously, we knew it was going to be a good thing. What were your thoughts knowing eventually that it was going to be that 5 million? What were your thoughts? Are you somebody that would have, like Shane's talking about, like going into the whole, like, this is lower. Do I take this offer? Like, what were your thoughts going into that?
I think at that point, I think Dixon knew like he should probably at least take a risk because either way, like it is a 50-50 chance. I mean, worst case scenario, you end up like picking the wrong one out of that 50-50 chance. But I feel like the risk, like it's a big risk, big reward because you can get it right as Dixon was able to do. So I might have taken a risk in that situation because we've also seen already this season of people that did not take that risk and they ended up going home. So um, I I I think this game favors the risk takers, honestly.
Yeah. You know, the other thing that I have to bring up here too is in Deal or No Deal, the actual show before the island, if you ever did not take that last deal and you ended up with the case on the board and your case, Howie Mandel always gave them the option, do you want to switch your case? And they don't do that on Deal or No Deal Island. And I
Right.
wonder if I wish they kind of would bring that in a little bit because that's the kind of that one last moment of like, how sure are you right now of your case, you know? And it adds another element to it. So I wonder if like we'll ever see that here on Deal or No Deal Island or if it will be kind of staying with the game show.
Right. Yeah. At that point, like if you're riding your case to the end, you kind of need to have confidence in it. Because if you're switching, then it's like, what's the point of even picking a case to begin with?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I mean, but that we saw it was kind of when there weren't many times that people made it all the way to that moment. But I would love to go back and look at like numbers because I do know that a couple people did switch and ended up some switched and was good that they switched and others switched and it was really, really bad.
Yeah.
I'd love to see the numbers on that. But yeah, it's just another interesting thing to bring in. Um, yeah, so I mean, I also have to talk about this moment because we talked about it for so many weeks leading up to this. In the preview, obviously, we did not see Will in there. I think that was either a very brilliant camera angling because if we did see when they all started jumping up and down, Will was very kind of far away from that group,
Yeah.
so it was an
Yeah.
easy crop. But did they also like maybe Photoshop him out because they did obviously Photoshop what was in the case there as well.
Right.
But that was very good like editing on their part because I know that Shane and I were definitely convinced, and Jake, I think we came to you and you were starting to get convinced as well that this was maybe happening next week. So, but
Yeah.
I have to say I took so many pictures of Dixon in this celebratory moment. And And one of my favorites, I was like, Shane, can you rewind that? Because I just missed it and it went to Letty, I think. But he like kind of sat on his case with that 5 million. I was like, I love this moment for him, that he's able to celebrate. But I have to bring this up because it's gonna probably be blurry on the Zoom, and we can maybe share it too. I don't know, but this was just one of my favorite moments from him last night. Is after winning, he grabs that case and he just
Oh yeah.
so like proud. He's like, this is my case, I'm taking it home. And it's like he's like, I can't imagine the feelings that he was feeling in that moment on the island. And not even that, I even messaged him last night like, the high that you must be on watching this play out on TV has got to be great for him. So I just had to mention that celebration. I just felt very excited for him. But then he has a decision to make. Good old Dickson.
Yeah, I'm excited
In
to discuss it.
true Dickson fashion, a massive blindside is to be happened because he says, "I'm playing my game. I am not a puppet. I'm not doing anybody else's game." And the point that I have to bring up here is he decides to send out Storm, who Storm was like, "Have confidence in your case. Like, don't hit the button." Like he's pep talking Dickson here,
Right.
and we made the joke that was the dick move of Dickson of the episode, because here's Storm like, dude, you got this. Have confidence in your case. You've got this. We believe in you. And then he's like, thanks. I just got 5 million, and Storm, you can go out. Like, see, hit the door.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, besides David, Storm was the one with the biggest reaction when he saw that $5 million case.
Yeah.
It kind of, when you look back at the episode, it was foreshadowed because Storm was nowhere to be found until this episode, and when they started showing him a little more, and like they always showed him and then had Dickson come in right after they showed a Storm confessional. So I'm like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
I anticipated, like, because they were showing MG and Storm together, I'm like, and people were saying, oh, this is a showmance, this is like something we need to keep an eye on. And so I'm like, what if like they're immediately gonna cut the showmance in half? And so I anticipated that might happen, but seeing it actually happen, like, just what a boss move from Dickson. And I feel like in this scenario, like if I was gonna make a big move, I guess this would be the big move to make in this case. But
yeah,
I was a little worried that he would go after David, but then I realized we had seen clips in the trailer that we haven't seen yet. But also, speaking of which, I don't recall, unless I missed it, but I don't or maybe was it last episode? Never mind. I was gonna say I don't remember the scene where Storm is like doing squats with Dickson on his back, but I think that was actually last
that was last week.
Yeah,
He's like, my contribution. Yeah. I have to ask, I mean, of course, I'm not a Dr. Will fan. We know this from our last thing where I told him he could go drown in the ocean again. Sorry, Dr. Will. But with that, I mean, this is probably one of the greatest moments is anybody that's not even that knows Dickson, but anybody to be able to see Dr. Will basically get handed a blind side, which doesn't typically happen. Dr. Will's in there in the confessional, on the calls and all the things that he does because he's at the forefront of these blind sides. And so to see him basically get played like a fiddle from Dickson to say, yeah, I'm going to take out CK, and then to actually take out Storm. Will's face was priceless to me. He was like, oh my gosh, I got taken by this little like nerdy, like nothing kid that I never thought I'd have to worry about. And so, what are your thoughts? Where would you guys have gone? Would you have gone Storm, or would you have gone somebody else? And what are your thoughts? We know that we've seen from previews, Dickson and Will are going to get into a fight. Do you think that was the right move for Dickson to take out and make that move for himself, and make kind of a big name when he already just made a big name for himself by winning this money? Like, did you think that maybe he should have laid low there?
So knowing what I know from watching the episodes now, I think the move I would have made if I had all this information would have been Philip. The question mark there is like, okay, Dickson's close with Parvati. So if you take out Philip, is she going to be mad at you because Philip and Parvati are close?
Right.
But that could also bring Dickson closer to David and David away from Parvati. But I don't know that he even knows that David and Parvati are like a duo.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're just not showing us enough. So it's hard to say. But I do think the move he made sets up well the scene that's likely next week, the Nunya moment, where Will doesn't trust him, which also is a little spoilerish because my read on that situation and that scene is that Will is going in to face the banker and Dickson is likely in power or safe. And that's why he's asking who he's going to take out. Because usually if you were up for elimination, you wouldn't go and be like, oh, who are you going to take out? You'd try to sway it away from yourself.
Right.
Especially
well,
knowing
wouldn't be getting
that,
in a fight. Yeah.
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 And then the last part of your question is, I think that because he banked $5 million, that should give him some favor too and be like, let's not get rid of this guy. Like, he just helped us. Like, yes, he made this move that some of us don't like, but he also added $5 million to the case that one of us is going to have a chance at winning. So that should have some favor. Is also like, why eliminate someone like that? Because they did it once, they could do it again. If you eliminate him, then you are losing opportunities to potentially get the money, where if you put him back into the banker, he could do it again and get you another 5 million or 10 million or whatever it is.
Right.
But I do think he will face the banker again. I feel like he will. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Jake,
one other thing I was going to say is, do we think he told anyone, and by anyone, probably David, about this plan, or did he keep it to himself and let everyone think it was CK?
From David's reaction, and granted, David, I'm not familiar with David yet. I mean, I'm getting familiar, and it makes me want to go back and watch his episodes more on Australian Survivor. But he did seem genuinely shocked. Now, I mean, he seems like he is a pretty good actor from like confessionals and things that I've gotten to see. But I don't know him well enough to actually have an opinion on that. But it did appear that he was genuinely shocked.
Yeah.
So I've seen David appear genuinely shocked when he knew exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't seen that in Australian. So.
Like the third boot of All Stars.
Yes, All Stars. He literally pretends to be shocked, and he knew everything that was going on in that tribe.
But like, is it like how we normally see a shocked, like, oh my god, you know, or was it like
there's the gifs.
Is it a good shocked face?
Yes,
I guess?
yes. There's gifs out there. If you literally search the gif, you'll like find.
So I mean, so then he maybe he did know, but yeah, for me, I was like, I don't know David well enough, because typically you don't have people that can actually pull off a very genuine shock face. It normally comes off very cheesy. So who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope that this doesn't hurt Dickson in the long run, because it seems from what we've seen, Storm thought he was close to Dickson, and like, I don't know why Dixon's like, oh yeah, I'm still going to visit you in Austin. I'm like, you're not going to visit him. Even if he's your best friend, you're not going to visit him because you won't visit us.
Right.
But
if like Dave,
right? But like, if that's the case and Storm truly thought he was close, okay, now it's like, is Storm delusional, or like, were they actually close? If David sees that, he's like, well, I'm close with him, so is he going to do this to me? That could be a thought going in his head, but we also know the other thought in his head is, I want to go to the end with him because I can crush him. Yeah. Like the way he said that confessional, just like so serious, and like, yeah, he's just like, I'm going to take him to the end and I'll crush him in that challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I fully believe him. That I think that if it's up to David, I think that we will see a David Dickson in the finale where he absolutely crushes him.
Yeah. Well, so for my take on whether Dickson made the correct move, I think it splits up the power couple, as we've been saying. It also, again, pisses off Will. But Will has CK, who's already like actively gunning for him, so they're not going to work together. So I don't think the other side of the island, so to speak, is really going to like band together against the family as much as Will's going to try to get them to do that. I think because Parvati is working with like Philip, she has conversations with CK, and then David and Dickson are tight, and you know, I just feel like they have their fingers in a bunch of pies, and like Will's not going to be able to get a large enough resistance to do anything.
I also am curious, like, what was CK told? Like, did Dixon tell CK, yeah, I'm going to send you home if I win because everyone's saying to do it? Or was he vague to her? Did he say, oh, there's another plan? Like, what? That's what I'm curious about because if he told her, yeah, you're going home, then she could be all mad now. She's like, well, you told me I'm going home and now you didn't, which is great that you didn't, but like, why are you telling me? So was that like a last minute change on your mind? And that means you still don't like me? Like, I don't know.
Here's my thing with Dixon. And from playing with him, and granted, Dixon is one that he does change up his play styles, but they're all kind of kind of in the same vicinity of one another. They all kind of stem back to his chaos on Deal or No Deal. Like that's straight up a Dixon thing. I can see Dixon not telling anybody anything. There were times when him and I, we were ride or die's number one allies, and he was off planning a whole, like, in his head. Nobody had an idea of what he was doing. I mean, we saw him when he played Vanquish in the mini. He only told Adam that he was going to pull off this, like, oh, we're going to do the Saints from 41 and 42, and we're going to, like, cause the chaos in this tribal. So I could see him just easily not telling anybody and just kind of being like a haha, like, mic drop moment for him. I did want to point out though that when you bring up the CK of it all, if you they only looked at her a couple times, but when they locked in on her, she was not like upset, like really. She was cheering. And then when it came down, when he's like standing there, if you notice, she didn't seem very nervous at all.
Yeah.
So I wonder if maybe he did maybe leaked her like, I'm supposed to take you out, but there's something else that's going to happen or something. Maybe he didn't tell her, but like kind of gave her an insight of like, I'm not taking you out because I think because she sat right next to Storm. So we were able to see her a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that like her reaction to him making the good deal was more muted than everyone else's. Like her and Philip, at least from the trailer, because at the time I'm like, okay, yeah, one of those two is going to go before the season even aired.
Right.
So we didn't know anything. I was just like, they're not jumping up and down.
Right.
But it could be an act. Like, I don't know. There's just so much left unsaid here. Like, I feel like if we had an all access pass to see all the footage, this should probably be the best season of reality TV ever. And right now, like, it's good. It's just so confusing to me. There's so much missing, I feel like.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think especially when we saw so much happen that we didn't get privy to. So
yeah,
hopefully they do answer those questions at some degree at some point so that we can figure out why Dixon's name was thrown out. Why? See, and that's why I'm wondering if those clips were for next week's show and they accidentally put him in here because why would his name start being thrown out? But then, like, why were they talking about putting him into the temple too? So I'm like, I'm all kinds of confused here. I could see them being thrown out after he made this like storm and didn't tell anybody. You know what I mean? So we are definitely missing a lot here. So
at least the one scene in the bedroom made sense to me of like why they put him in because someone was like, oh, don't put in CK, put in the most malleable person that you can like influence and. The way he's coming, or Dixon's coming off, definitely seems like, oh yeah, I'm just like some little kid. You can tell me what to do, and I'll do it. Which is clearly not true, or they just saw that. But at least that makes sense for why he got put in. It's just all this other stuff, like literally that Seychelles confessional, where she's like, "I don't respect him," came out of nowhere.
Right.
Like both what she said, but also like the confessional, literally like was in the middle.
That's what I'm saying. Like she said, "I don't respect his game." And that's why I'm thinking, that's why, like, after the storm thing, because I feel like, you know what I mean? She wouldn't have respected the lie about, or something. I don't know. I can't, I hope we get these answers because this is, it's definitely.
But now, too, it makes sense because there's a scene that's gonna happen that we've seen in the preview where he's kissing Letty's hand and David and Parvati look at it and they're like, uh-oh, what does this mean? And now it makes sense because they're like, okay, well, we just saw him turn on someone that maybe was close to him. So if he's like doing this, is he going to turn on us? And I think there are egos at play with like Parvati and David, where they're like, we're the best. We can't get duped by this kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, also, I did feel like they were kind of planting the seeds a little bit last night for this Letty Dixon thing. Cause she's like sitting there was like, oh, Dixon, yeah, pick another hot one. Like I was like, Jesus, girl. So I felt like they kind of very much put her in his cheering section,
Yeah.
kind of seductively, if you will, to be like, yeah, Dixon, pick another hot girl.
Mhm.
So I feel like they were kind of trying to tease us a little bit of what's to come, even though you
Yeah.
can't tease us. We already saw it in a preview, but
Right.
yeah, it was interesting to see. But yeah, it's where we're gonna end up from here. But honestly, I mean, again, I say it to have not only just a player do something that great, but a player that we personally know to be able to like, even whether he wins or not, to go down in a history of a thing that's never been done on a reality show is really, really cool. So we're all very proud of you,
Right.
Jason. And I can't imagine the high that you're feeling right now, and how proud you and your family and all of us are of you. So great job, Dixon, and we love you for it.
Yeah, and speaking of that too, like Joe has gone on the record saying the final temple, the person that wins, it's crazy because they just turn down deal after deal after deal and millions of dollars. I'm like, it's not Dixon. Like, he's not going to win. I do think he's going to go far. And I was like, I think it's David, because someone with money would do that. But now, I don't know. This got me thinking a little bit.
Dixon's
Is
crazy.
he crazy? Like, we know he's a little crazy. Is he crazy enough to do it? I mean, hey, he put that $5 million in there. He might be like, no, I'm coming for that $5 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he truly does win the season, unfortunately, I think I'll lose a little bit of trust in him, because I just feel like I would be able to tell. Like, if he won, I could just tell. Like, he's not going to tell me about it. Like, I could just tell. And if he's that good at faking it, I need to self-reflect. So we'll see.
We're gonna have a talk. Our actual mom and dad are gonna have a talk with.
Right.
Oh man, Jake, what are your like closing thoughts on this episode and the season to come?
I'm excited to see what happens with Dixon moving forward. I'm either Team Dixon or Team David. I think those are I'm gonna be cheering for the two of them. And then just wanted to mention also a fun character moment, since we mentioned Letty, the moment where they're doing the axe throwing and the axe hits her target in like the head, and she like goes like this, like that actually hit her in the head.
There's a lot of good characters on this season for sure, but it's I mean,
I also liked when Dixon threw the thing and it hit the target and he was cheering and they're all cheering and then it fell off.
Yeah. And then Joe's like, no.
Joe's like, no.
Yeah.
Oh man. No, a lot of great characters. I mean, we had two big, huge characters go out back to back there. So they gotta pick it up a little bit. But he did throw a little, like, a dry bone to Luke there by picking 7 at that point.
Right. Yeah.
Even that, like, he's like, I promise I won't bring him up anymore. We haven't seen him bring him up once. So again, we're missing a lot of stuff from a minute.
Why are all the train wreck first boots, like 7 is like the big thing? Like, it's Luke and Jelinski. Like, they're literally 7 is their number, apparently.
Obviously, 7 is not a lucky number. It is a very unlucky number.
Exactly.
Oh man. Well, again, I think we're in for another like great season. It's already been amazing. I think it's gonna continue to be amazing. I will not be sad when Will and Parvati leave, but that's just mine. But I do love everybody else on there. I am like with you, Jake, Dixon, and David right now. I do like Letty too. I haven't seen much of her, but I do. She seems like a person that I would maybe vibe with. And then I do like Lachelle. We mentioned that the last time as well. She kind of just is. She called herself basically the aunt that you just kind of want to hang out with and tell your stuff to. So I do really like her as well. So. Shane, who are your people?
Same as always, David and Dixon. It's just so hard to predict like how the others will do. I do think Parvati will go far. I've said for a while now, like, there's something about Philip and the way they've shown him that he could be the winner as well. It's hard to say, but as for the others, I don't really know. Like, I truly thought Will was going this week. And I feel like Will's early boot. So maybe next week Will goes and loses to the Bankers. It seems like he's going in, but I don't know. the others, like Lachelle, it's hard to say because she's kind of in like a Jordan position from last year. But if they look at that and say, well, we need to get that person out, especially because Dixon's going to have a lot of explaining to do about why he got rid of Storm. So if he's like, well, look, he was like Jordan, just floating in the middle, and he's going to win, and he's good at challenges. Now they'll be like, okay, that makes sense. Let's see who else is floating in the middle and get them out.
Right. Agree.
And then there's clearly going to be bad blood between Seychelle and I believe CK based on comments we saw in the trailer.
In preview, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh boy.
Like, hey, to quote our boy Dixon, chaos on Deal or No Deal Island.
Yeah, but also that scene was weird because when they showed him saying that, there literally was no chaos yet. Like they literally just got back. I'm like, why are you putting that scene right there?
Listen, I think we're questioning the editing. The editing is not our friend this week, but
no.
Yeah, I can see why maybe my dad has been a little confused so far. I think it's been based on the editing.
Oh man. Well, anything else you guys want to say before we wrap it up? I know the only thing I want to again reiterate is Dixon, we're all extremely proud of you. We're rooting for you. Be very proud of yourself, and congratulations on making history, buddy. We are very proud of you. But that's all I had left to say. Anything from you guys?
No, just what you said.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see it continue and talk about it with you guys some more. We're going to be continuing Traders this week, and then February starts, and Tribe of Nerds has a lot of stuff going on, so stay tuned for that. More Lost is coming out. We got a lot of episodes to go still, so...
This will be a year-long thing.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where that goes, especially where we're at the moment. And a couple other series that will be starting up next month. So, including Australian Survivor and US Survivor, new seasons to talk about.
Yes. So like, comment, subscribe, all the things.
Yep. Do all that good stuff. And we will see you all next time on the Tribe of Nerds.